Hello and welcome back to my channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. Let's begin. Ichigo Kurosaki stared out the window of the school, drowning out the teacher as she blabbered on about a subject. He didn't really care about school anymore, for what did he need school for when he was a substitute Soul Reaper for the Soul Society? The world of the living would never know of his skills and accomplishments, and besides, saving Karakura Town was a full-time job in itself. It wasn't like he could put Soul Reaper as an occupation on an application, and plus, the Soul Society called on him too much for him to be able to keep a steady job in the first place. Ichigo, the teacher yelled, smacking her pointing stick on his desk. What are you daydreaming about? Nothing that concerns you, he said with a slight growl. Then pay attention to my lesson. How are you supposed to survive in this world if you don't have a proper education? By fighting hollows to save the world. He thought to himself but sighed, looking at the board instead. He then looked over at Rukia, studiously paying attention as if it really meant something to her. He made a face about her brown-nosing nature and continued to wait. Later that day, Rukia went to Ichigo at lunch and began to type on her phone. There is a report from the Soul Society on the Precipice World. It seems there are some things going on with it, so they advise us not to go through there for a few days. What happens if we do? Who knows? I wouldn't want to find out. Does that mean they won't be able to come here for movie night? Orihime asked from the grass as she sipped her drink. I had invited Ranjaku-san, Hitsugaya-san, and Renji-kun to come watch a movie with me. I'm afraid those plans will have to be done later. Orihime nodded, though she was saddened by the fact, but it didn't get her down as she smiled brightly and looked up at them. That's all right. We'll just have a movie night later. Maybe there will even be a better movie. Rukia and Ichigo smiled at her happy-go-lucky nature when a sound came from Rukia's phone. The two looked at each other quickly and nodded. Hollow. They both said at the same time. Rukia threw a small ball into her mouth from a PEZ-looking bunny dispenser, and it seemed like her body separated into two of her, one in a black shihakusho with a white sash tied at the waist and the other of her regular self. Ichigo pulled out the substitute Shinigami badge and hit his chest with it, splitting like Rukia did, but unlike her, his body fell straight to the ground. As they took off running, Ichigo turned to Orihime from over his shoulder. Watch over my body for me, all right? He yelled back to her. To anyone else, it would have looked like Orihime was waving at nobody as she dismissed her friends. As they ran to destroy the hollow, Ichigo looked at Rukia. What are they doing in the Precipice World? I mean, can they be in there? Well, since Aizen destroyed the cleaner, they haven't been having any problems staying in there for a while like they used to. According to the text, Mayuri is working on something in there, but we shouldn't go through it. It has to do with space and time, and if someone is working on it, it's best that we not touch it. Ichigo nodded, understanding very well how the Precipice World worked. They finally reached the hollow that was terrorizing the small park and destroyed it with ease, it disappearing into thin air. Ichigo put his Zanpakuto on his shoulder and looked around. We should get back. Ichigo. He turned back to her and smiled. I'm just thinking, that's all. Rukia nodded and they both went back to the school. Jinta knocked Yururu in the head again as she yelped in pain. You're such a slacker. You're the slacker, Jinta. She said softly. The back door opened up and Urahara walked in, his hand on his hat to keep it from flying off in the wind. He looked up and sighed at his helpers. Jinta-kun, please don't hurt Yururu-san so much. Ah, Urahara-sama. She said, pushing Jinta away from her. Did you find what you were looking for? No, I'm afraid not, but I did find something interesting that is going on in the Precipice World. I don't know exactly what's going on in there, but I know that it's disturbing the flow. Didn't that Aizen guy do something to it? I heard that the cleaner was destroyed, but... He opened his fan and fanned it slowly in front of his face as he thought about what he was going to do. I gained some trust from the Soul Society, but not enough, I'm afraid. I can't go through the Precipice World. He walked around for a moment as he tried to figure out what he wanted to do when he stopped and smiled to himself, a lovely little trick up his sleeve. He'd figure out a way to see what was going on in the Precipice World one way or another, and he knew just how to get it done. As Ichigo walked home, he just couldn't shake a weird feeling he was getting. He didn't know what exactly it was, but it made his insides, his cells, feel like something was happening. Is it because my spiritual pressure is starting to wane? He thought, looking at his hand and opening and closing it. He shook his head a little and just continued walking back home. Ichigo-san. He heard behind him and turned to find Urahara waving at him with a fan. Oh, Urahara-san, what is it? I was wondering if you wouldn't mind doing something kind of important for me. Ichigo made a face. What does this consist of? What? You don't trust me? Urahara said with an over-exaggerated surprised face. Ichigo just gave him a look and Urahara laughed a little. Okay, I get it. But on a serious level, Ichigo, I really do need a favor from you. Like what? I need you to go in the Precipice World and see what they are doing in there. Oh, well, I can tell you that. Mayuri-san is trying to fix it since Aizen destroyed the cleaner. We aren't allowed to go in there until they give clearance. Not even to take a peek. I wouldn't know. Why do you keep wanting me to go in there? Ichigo said, narrowing his eyes at the shopkeeper. Urahara suddenly laughed overdramatically as Ichigo stared at him with a stone expression. Oh, Ichigo, you and your doubts. All I want to know is what's going on. You can feel it, can't you? The strange sensation in your body? He said, pointing at him with the cane in his other hand. Ichigo looked at his hand. I just thought it was the waning of my spiritual pressure, so you can feel it too, Urahara-san. Rukia-chan feels it too, but she wouldn't tell you or me. Ever since they started working on the Precipice World, I have felt something strange happening. Don't you want to know what it is? Ichigo nodded, curiosity getting the better of him. Then I have a small mission I'd like for you to do for me. They walked back to the shop. So what is it you want me to try and find while I'm in there? Ichigo asked as Tessai sat down some tea for him and Urahara. Urahara picked up the small glass and sipped out of it. It's not necessarily what I want you to find, but more of what is going on. You see, fixing the Precipice World is for a reason, because time flows through it and such. Yeah, I remember. My old man stopped it from reaching me in order to buy me some time to learn how to do the final Zangetsu. Ichigo said, remembering how long it had seemed while he was there. Exactly. Time flows differently in there, and thus is why the cleaner is in place, to keep soul reapers from lingering and gaining powers beyond the control of the soul society. People like Aizen, who were already powerful, needn't be held up in there to gain more power. Ichigo nodded, understanding their reasonings. Urahara's though, he never could figure out. He was such a conniving man to be so trusting as well. So what are you wanting me to do? I need you to just go in there and figure out what they are doing. I'll send you through, and all you have to do is run, and when you see them, you'll know to stop and just have a glance at what they are doing. Oh, and I want you to take a sample of the choreo so that I may study it a little. Okay. When do you want me to make this little trip? As soon as possible, so today, preferably, but if you have something to do then tomorrow will work as well. And there's no funny business, right? Just me taking a quick survey of what's going on and a sample of the choreo. That's all I need. Ichigo thought about it for a moment and then nodded. Might as well get this over with. Urahara smiled and they went to his underground lair. Ichigo adjusted his Zanpakuto on his back and looked at Urahara as he looked at his erasure machine and at his cane. He shrugged and moved his Zanpakuto into the air, turning the sword. A crude-looking gate showed up and opened, but it was dark. Ichigo looked at it and made a face at Urahara. You should be fine to just go through here. I apologize that I do not have any hell's butterflies to greet you, but since I have been banished from the Soul Society, I was not permitted to have complete access. This allows you to go straight into the Soul Society, but you have to go through the Precipice World. He walked up to him and handed him a vial with some tongs at the end of it. When you get in there, just take a little scoop and then run. Ichigo nodded, taking the tongs and breathed in. He knew this was a very bad idea, but if Urahara could tell him when the feeling he had was, he would be more at ease. He braced himself and ran into Senkamen. As soon as the darkness enveloped him, he began to run a little, knowing that he was in the Precipice World. He stuck the bottle into the koryu, thick goopy smoke-looking stuff filling the vial in an instant. He wondered how Urahara was going to be testing it when he saw a light flash behind him. He looked back and was surprised to find the cleaner heading toward him full force. "What the, I thought this was gone. They fixed it already," he yelled at no one as he ran as fast as he could toward where the opening was. It was starting to close and he pushed himself so that he didn't get stuck in the Precipice World forever and finally felt air around him. But what he didn't realize was that he was a few hundred feet in the air and yelled as his balance wavered and he began to fall. He tried to catch onto the air, but the force of gravity on his falling made it impossible to do. He finally found a side pocket of air and pushed up against it, propelling him in a straight line until he found another and another as he slowed down. He sighed and looked around a little. He was surprised that the construction of the Soul Society had been so quick considering the damage that had been done. He knew the buildings were made of rasher, but he didn't think they'd have repaired themselves that easily. He suddenly felt the presence of many people around him and turned to find Yoruchi looking at him, but she was dressed in her stealth gear and her hair was different. "Yoruchi. Boy, am I glad to see you." Silence. "I did not permit you to speak. How do you know my name?" "What do you mean?" "Yoruchi, it's me, Ichigo Kurosaki." "Kurosaki. Kurosaki. I don't know that name. You are not a Soul Reaper that I know." "What do you, I come here all the time. I'm friends with Renji, Rukia, Toshiro, Matsumoto, you. I helped defeat Aizen for God's sake." Yoruchi narrowed her eyes at him and in a flash had his hands behind his back. "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know any of those names except for Lieutenant Matsumoto and Lieutenant Hitsugaya. As for Lieutenant Aizen, he has not done anything to be defeated for." What? Let me go." "What's this in your hand anyway?" a young woman asked, grabbing the tongs and the vial. Ichigo turned his head and saw that the girl was Soy Fawn, but she looked so different than before. He was thoroughly confused and just wanted to get away from them. If he could just get back to the Senkamen, he'd go home and leave all of this craziness behind. He struggled with his hands against Yoruchi and finally broke free of her grip. He was just about to leap away when he heard some use Kido on him and he almost fell flat on his face. He cursed, feeling the uncomfortable and forceful Kido pull his arms behind him. "Now then, what was your name again, kid?" "Ichigo. Ichigo Kurosaki." He grunted, still trying to get out of the Kido. "Ichigo Kurosaki, huh? You look a little like someone I know." Soy Fawn, doesn't he look like Kyan?" "A little." "Kyan? Wasn't that Rukia's lieutenant's name? Didn't he turn into an errand car?" He thought, looking around. As Yoruchi's back was turned from him, he quickly scooted away and finally got up on his feet and ran. How long he ran he didn't know, but it was harder when the Kido was keeping his arms folded tightly behind him. Once he figured he was far enough away from the stealth division, he grunted and maneuvered around until he broke the Kido seal and massaged his arms. He looked around and found that there was a big wall behind him with a path going one way and another path beside it. He didn't know what the wall had behind it, but it was probably safer than having Yoruchi's men out to look for her. Ichigo flew into the air to jump over the wall. What's with her anyway? What did she mean that Aizen was a lieutenant? What is going on? Ichigo wasn't watching where he was landing and found himself hitting a tree branch and falling onto the ground, hitting his head. He hissed in pain and rubbed it a little when he felt someone staring at him. He opened his eyes and saw a young boy looking over him with curious brown eyes, black hair pulled back into a ponytail. "Who are you?" he asked. Who are you? Ichigo asked in return. I asked you first. You look like a peasant or something. I'm from noble birth, so you better tell me or I'll use my sword. Ichigo got up and pulled out his Zanpakuto. Kid, I have my own sword. I just came to hide out a little so I can go back to where I belong. Wow! What a big Zanpakuto. Can I touch it? No. Beat it, kid. You can't talk to the next leader of the Kuchiki clan like that. Ichigo stopped walking and turned to the little boy slowly. What? I'm going to be the next leader of the Kuchiki clan. The boy said proudly, crossing his arms. What was your name again? Byakuya. Byakuya Kuchiki. Ichigo stared at the young boy for a moment and then burst into obnoxious and deep resounding laughter. He couldn't stop laughing because every time he looked at the boy, it just got funnier and funnier. Byakuya, on the other hand, was not very happy to have this strange soul reaper laughing at him, and so took his wooden sword that he was practicing with and he whacked Ichigo hard in the knees. Will you quit laughing at me? I can have you arrested, you know, he said, narrowing his eyes at him. Though in pain, Ichigo was still chuckling. I'm sorry. But, could you just say something for me? Like in your most serious voice? Okay. Just say, in your most serious voice now, scatter, Senbonzakura, and go like this with the sword. Ichigo said, taking his own sword and showing him. Byakuya turned his head at the intruder, but he hadn't gotten much entertainment lately, and playing by himself was becoming quite cumbersome, so he shrugged and moved the wooden sword. He put it in front of his face like Ichigo had done and stared seriously. Scatter, Senbonzakura. He said in the most serious voice he could find. Ichigo thought it would be another laugh, but his face fell as he looked at the young boy with the wooden sword at his face, the sword acting as a line, the serious expression set in his gray eyes. It was all too familiar to be coincidence. Byakuya looked up at Ichigo. Did I do it right? Ichigo put his Zanpakuto up and nodded a little. Yeah, kid, that was great. Why did you make me do that? You remind me of someone that I know. So you said that your name is Byakuya. Is that your father's name or something? Uncle? Byakuya frowned. No. I'm the one and only. Who are you anyway, mister? Why are you in my courtyard? Oh, my name's Ichigo Kurosaki. I'm a substitute soul reaper and I was running away from Yoruchi. Byakuya laughed. Why? She isn't that bad. I mean, she's annoying and a stupid girl, but she's not mean. Usually she's not, but she was set on killing me. Ichigo said, looking up automatically to see if the stealth force had somehow suddenly found him. Why? I don't know. You ask too many questions. How am I supposed to learn if I don't? Ichigo smiled a little at that as Byakuya watched him for a moment. He took in the tall teen with the humongous Zanpakuto, the Shihakusho with the strange red cord that went across his chest, as well as the bright orange hair. I've never heard of a substitute soul reaper. What is that? Ichigo pulled out the skull badge and showed it to the boy. Captain Yukitake gave this to me. It allows me to eject my soul from my body so I can become a soul reaper. What do you mean? I'm from Karakura town, the world of the living. Why am I explaining everything to you? Ichigo said with a face. Byakuya shrugged. I dunno. I'm just asking questions. Ichigo looked at the boy again, turning his head and narrowing his eyes. And you're sure you don't have a father named Byakuya or something? No. What about Rukia? Who is that? Ichigo sighed, realizing that his fear seemed to be coming true right before his very eyes. I really am in the past. So that means that some of my friends aren't even alive yet, or they don't remember me. I'm definitely not welcome here. Master Byakuya, someone yelled, and Byakuya turned swiftly. An older man walked toward him and Byakuya stood silently as the man walked up to him. Upon seeing Ichigo, the older man drew his sword and took a stance. Ichigo only took a step back, watching his sword carefully. Master Byakuya, get away from that man. He is an intruder to the Siriidii. Kintano. Byakuya said, looking confused as he looked between Ichigo and the older man. Kintano, put your sword back. Another older man said, walking slowly up to them as the other man put his sword up, though he didn't look pleased. Please forgive my guard. The gray-headed man said with a kind look toward Ichigo. He is in charge of my grandson's safety. Ichigo looked at Byakuya, who didn't look pleased with the choice of man to have looking after him. Captain Kuchiki, this man is the one that Lady Yoruchi was looking for, the intruder. Kintano said with a harsh glare at Ichigo. He is highly dangerous, spouting lies and names that make no sense. Plus, he said that he defeated Lieutenant Aizen in some sort of battle dash. Enough, Kintano. We will get all of that information at the captain's meeting. The older man said with a raise of his hand. Looking at Ichigo, he held his gaze. I'm afraid I must take you to see the head captain. Ichigo nodded, knowing that there was no point in trying to leave anymore. Maybe they would have a better explanation for things than he had. All the captains went into the chambers as Ichigo was kept in shackles, his Zanpakuto taken away from him as well. We have come to the knowledge that there is an outsider here in the Siriidii. We hold this captain's meeting to determine mutually if he is an enemy or be allowed to roam within our vicinity. Bring him out. 2 guards pushed him out and he fell to his knees in front of head captain Yamamoto. Ichigo had dealt with the older man before, but seeing him like this, so unaware of who he was and definitely willing to kill him if it was to protect the Siriidii, he was actually terrified of him. What is your name? Ichigo. Ichigo. Why are you here, Ichigo? Who sent you? I came on my own. I was sent here by Urahara-san. He heard everyone being to murmur and turned around to see what the commotion was about. His eyes widened when he saw Urahara at the end of the captain's line. Urahara looked just as surprised as everyone else and shook his head furiously. I have never met this boy in my life. He said quickly. Ichigo took in his appearance, not seeing the slightly shabby, hat and clogs wearing man he was used to but a lithe and clean-cut captain. Ichigo gulped and swept the rest of the captain's line. He recognized some people such as Yukitake, Kairaku, and Yoruchi, but was surprised to see Hirako there with his blonde hair very long and some of the other visors from Karakura town. He made a note to figure out what was going on when he saw him. He was younger, but there was no doubt about it. Ichigo, you claim to know our newest captain recruit and yet he has not been with us very long. Care to explain how you know him? Look, I just know him. I know all of you. We've met before, but I think something happened. Are you here to kill us? The older man from Byakuya's home asked calmly. No. Look, I think something happened when I passed through the Precipice World. Mayuri was doing something with the Koryu and Urahara sent me into the Precipice World to get a sample of it, but when I came out I was here. This isn't the Soul Society that I know. What do you mean? Yamamoto demanded. I think I'm in the past. Ichigo said quietly, not trying to sound as crazy as he already sounded. Urahara stepped out of line. Head captain, if you'll allow it, I can do some studies on him and see if he is telling the truth. The Precipice World would leave a residue on him that would tell us what we need to know. And if Soifon will give me back that vial you all took, Ichigo said, looking straight at Yoruchi. He can study that Koryu. It's straight from when I came through. The head captain thought for a moment, his hands on top of his cane, and thought for a moment. He finally harumphed and hit his staff on the floor. I will agree to the study of the Ikoryu in the vial. Until that has been identified, the intrude will be kept in prison. Take him away and we will discuss another matter at hand. The guards took Ichigo away and Ichigo hoped that the specimen he got for his Urahara would show the things needed to get him off the hook. Byakuya worked on his calligraphy as Kintano watched over him, though not paying too close attention to his young master. He knew that Byakuya did much better when he felt no one was watching him, but he was also being cautious, watching the skies for more strange people or strange phenomena. If not for him doing just this, he would not have seen the bright orange-haired man jump over the wall where he knew Byakuya was practicing. "Kintano-sensei?" Byakuya asked from the table. He turned around to him. "Where is Ichigo?" "I didn't hear you order any strawberries, Master Byakuya," the older man said with a furrow of his brow, trying to remember if he had asked without him realizing it. "Not strawberries, Ichigo Kurosaki," Byakuya said with a frown to his teacher. "Is he still here?" "Your father has not returned from his captain's meeting in regards to the intruder. You do not need to worry yourself over what happens with him." Byakuya made a face but knew he'd find him later. With a Zanpakuto like his, Byakuya knew that there must be great spiritual pressure within him. He wasn't very familiar with how the Zanpakutos work just yet, but with one that big, he must be powerful. "I want him to teach me how to raise my spiritual pressure. Maybe I can get a shurikai." The door to the classroom opened up and Jinrei walked in. Byakuya stood up quickly, running to his grandfather. "Grandfather, where is Ichigo? The newest captain is going to do further research on him. This Ichigo Kurosaki claims that he may have traveled into the past because of something to do with the Precipice World." The head captain seemed to think this was too far-fetched of an explanation to go unclarified. "That, and he mentioned people to me I'd never heard of as well as active squad members in the wrong rank," Yoruchi said as she came in behind Jinrei. "He seemed to think he and I were supposed to be friends." Byakuya ran toward her to catch her, but Yoruchi used an shunpon to evade him, reappearing behind him and took his hair tie once more. "Tsk, Master Byakuya. I can still steal your hair tie. Have you been practicing at all?" He frowned at her, his black hair in his face. Yoruchi just laughed at him, which caused Byakuya to make himself a resolve: he would find Ichigo Kurosaki and use him as a mentor. "I apologize about the shackles, Kurosaki-san, but it is precautionary," Urahara said with an apologetic smile. "And you say I sent you into the Precipice World to retrieve this Korea sample? Why would I send you on such dangerous mission? You're pretty cynical," Ichigo said from the small cell. Urahara smirked as he dipped out a spoonful of Koryu and mixed it together with another liquid. Even though Ichigo didn't really trust Urahara fully, he was glad it was him and not Mayuri. Now that he thought about it, where was that lunatic? "Is Mayuri your assistant or your lieutenant?" Urahara looked up quickly. "How do you know about Kuratsuchi?" he asked suspiciously. "Isn't this the Research and Development Center? Mayuri is the captain of Squad 12, right?" "No. That would be me." "What gives you reason to think he would ever be a captain?" he said with a frown. Ichigo sighed. "Never mind." Urahara watched him for a moment and then got up, going to the cell. He opened the door and knelt in front of Ichigo, staring at him intently. "You say you're from the future?" "Yeah. Lady Yoruchi told me that you told her some interesting things. One in particular in regards to Lieutenant Aizen. He's a captain in my time. Squad 5 or something." Urahara's eyes widened a little. "Captain Hirako's squad? He's his lieutenant, you know." Ichigo nodded a little. "I knew there was a clear animosity between them, but I didn't know they were that close." "Animosity? They may have some trust issues." "No," Ichigo said, shaking his head. "He has more than just trust issues to deal with. Look, I don't want to mess up the space-time continuum, or whatever it's called, at risk, so I really dash. Dear boy, just by being here you've messed it up. If there is a threat to the Soul Society, we need to know about it. I can only tell you to watch out for him. Is there anyone else in cahoots with him? I'll just say that the actions are his alone, but those who choose to follow him have decided on that one thing on their own accord. The actions that follow were by Aizen's order. Urahara nodded and took the shackles off of him, surprising Ichigo. What are you doing? I don't know exactly who you are or what you're here for, but knowing that small amount of information tells me you are not lying. If you'll wait a bit, I will clear you with the head captain. Ichigo nodded as Urahara left the room. He looked around and scratched the back of his neck. He'd never been in the research and development center, but he figured it was much better now than it was in his time. He didn't know where his Zanpakuto was either, and it made him very anxious to be without it. Urahara walked back in with the old man from Byakuya's house, who was there with him. Kurosaki-san, this is Captain Jinrei Kuchiki of Squad 6, 56th leader of the Kuchiki clan. Jinrei bowed and Ichigo bowed back, somewhat awkwardly. The old man put his hands behind his back. My grandson tells me that your spiritual pressure is one of the highest he's felt, considering he has not fully developed his abilities. You must be very powerful. Well, they say that, but... Jinrei chuckled. No need to worry, young man, you must not know me as well as some in your time and therefore do not trust me. You can tell me anything or nothing, I do not mind. Ichigo bowed, grateful for the captain's understanding. Thank you, sir. Captain Kuchiki has kindly agreed to let you stay with him. On behalf of my grandson, Ichigo looked down at Byakuya, who looked up at him. He seemed to take a liking to you. And I figured you would like your Zanpakuto back. Very interesting shape. I'll have to study it sometime. Urahara said, holding out Zangetsu to him. He grabbed it and looked at Byakuya again. Why would he want me near him? Ichigo thought, remembering how much Byakuya usually hated him. Wonder how he became so droll. Ichigo followed the Kuchikis back to their elaborate home, to wit they were met at the door by Kintano, who bowed low. Welcome back, Captain Kuchiki, Master Byakuya. Upon seeing Ichigo, he frowned as Ichigo frowned back. Welcome, Ichigo Kurosaki. Kurosaki-san will be staying with us until further instruction by the head captain or if any new revelations come from Captain Urahara. Please make him feel at home and tell Misaka that he is going to be helping Byakuya. Ichigo looked at him in confusion. Helping Byakuya? What for? Jinrei smiled from under his thick white mustache. Lady Yoruchi is teaching him the many arts of flash step and I think you are the right one to teach him how to fight. Byakuya's face lit up but Ichigo shook his head furiously. I can't. I can already tell you that your grandson is already going to be an amazing fighter. He will be one of the best, so I don't need to train him. That's the funny thing about time, dear boy, what if by being here you were the one who made him great? If you do not do anything, you might hinder his growth. The captain had a point but that didn't mean Ichigo was thrilled about it. Great, so now I have to teach this kid to be one of the most difficult opponents I have ever faced besides Ulquiorra and Aizen. How's that for irony? Training will commence tomorrow. Jinrei left and Byakuya looked at Ichigo with a twinkle in his eyes. I'm going to be a really good fighter. Ichigo looked down at him and smiled slightly to him. Yeah. One of the more difficult opponents I've ever encountered. Byakuya's eyes lit up. Really? You bet. An older lady walked in from where the captain had just left to. She had graying orange hair and was dressed in a traditional kimono. She gave a bow and looked at Ichigo. Welcome to our clan, Kurosaki-san. Captain Kuchiki told me to lead you to your room. We have dinner together at the gong and the young master's itinerary is in your room. Please follow me. Ichigo followed the older woman with Byakuya behind him. She stopped at a sliding door that took Ichigo all of his memory and able to see how to get back out of the labyrinth. Here are your accommodations. I hope they are to your liking. She said with a hand out to the room and a bow. Ichigo nodded and walked in. It was a very nice room, definitely of royalty. There wasn't very much in there but a futon, desk, and a very elaborate kimono on a stand in the far corner. There was a separate sliding door that went to the outside. Do you like it? Seems cozy. It's larger than my room. Are you an only child, Kurosaki-sama? Byakuya asked, sitting on the floor and crossing his legs. Ichigo made a face. You can just call me Ichigo. It's not like I ever say your name properly. Byakuya stared blankly at him. But no, I have two younger sisters, Yuzu and Karen. I wish I had siblings. It gets annoying being alone all the time or dealing with Kintano. Don't worry, you'll get one. How? My parents are dead. I know how babies are made. Ichigo chuckled. I'm sure you do. No, you adopt a sister. She's a friend of mine. Is that Rukia girl you mentioned before? I won't confirm that. Byakuya made a face, wanting so desperately to know what he was like in the future. Well. Can you tell me if I'm a good brother or not? 'Cause if I'm not, I want to know. As the next leader of the Kuchiki clan, I can't slack in my duties. Ichigo went over to the folded clothes that were on the futon and moved the papers that were there. He looked at the simple house, and wondered if he was actually able to take off his shihakusho. I think you're an okay brother. You value laws and principles, but I think you need to realize that though those are important, the love of family is more important. Huh? Think of this, do you know why big brothers were born first? Because they were. No. Ichigo knelt down, getting eye level with the boy. Big brothers are born first to protect the younger siblings born after him. His duty, his responsibility, is to keep those after him from being harmed, doing anything it takes to ensure their safety. Do you understand? Byakuya nodded and Ichigo rustled his hair subconsciously. Good. Never forget it. Someone called for Byakuya and he ran toward the door but stopped. When I grow up, I'm gonna be just like you, Ichigo Kurosaki. Ichigo looked at the ceiling as he thought about what he was going to do. He didn't like the fact that old man Kuchiki had made him Byakuya's trainer. He hated that he was teaching the first opponent that was so hard to overcome. Aizen was definitely the worst he had had to deal with so far, but along with Kenpachi and Ulquira, Byakuya was one of the most intensive fighters he had had to deal with. Byakuya was so precise and graceful, never letting the words of his opponent get to him and making him make rash decisions, unlike himself. Byakuya, older Byakuya that is, had told him many times that his rash actions caused Ichigo to do things out of anger, making him predictable. If older Byakuya was able to keep so calm, then how was the younger version going to do that with Ichigo as a teacher? Ichigo sighed and looked at his hands. Besides, Ichigo thought. By doing the final Zangetsu on Aizen, my powers are waning. How will I be able to teach him anything? That, and my hollow powers will definitely not be accepted here. Ichigo wondered if he would ever be able to get back to his own time and if things will change if he tried to leave now. He wanted nothing more than to get up and try to go through the Precipice World back to Karakura town, but the words old man Kuchiki had said to him made him stay. What if it was because of Ichigo's skills as a teacher that made Byakuya so good? The thought of it made Ichigo shake his head in confusion. Disrupting time by being however many years back he was giving him a headache. He hated that no one knew what he was talking about or who he was talking about. All of his friends either were not in existence or were not at the levels they should be and thus, were never really heard of and definitely never heard of him. He was a stranger to everyone. He hated knowing things about people and yet being looked at like a creep or a dangerous person. Ichigo finally turned over in the futon and fell asleep, though it was a hard sleep to come by. There was a small knock on Ichigo's sliding door but Ichigo didn't really hear it. He had had such a hard time falling asleep that he was now in a deep sleep. The door slid open and Misaka walked in, sitting on her knees beside Ichigo and shaking his shoulder. Ichigo ummed and swatted her hand away from his face. "Young man, you must get up," she said, shaking his shoulder again. Ichigo made an inaudible sound as he turned away from her. Misaka, used to trying to get Byakuya up, stood up fluidly and sighed to herself. She bent over and proceeded to snatch the covers away from the sleeping teen's body. His body immediately tensed more in the fetal position and he opened an eye. "Kurosaki-san, you must get up in order to train young Master Byakuya," Misaka said dryly as she folded the covers in her arms. Ichigo shivered a little but got up as Misaka left. He was pretty much half asleep but found his clothes and zanpakuto and strapped his sandals on. He yawned, stretching a little as he walked out of the room. After asking two of the guards where to get to the dining area, he finally found it. Byakuya, Kintano, and Jinrei all at the table eating food. Upon seeing Ichigo, Byakuya waved him over and pointed to the pillow beside him so that he would sit by him. Ichigo reluctantly sat beside him, folding his legs Indian style. A maid walked over and began to dip him rice into a small rice bowl and pouring him tea. "How was your sleep, Kurosaki-san?" Jinrei asked as he sipped some tea. "It was good," Ichigo answered, messing with his rice for a little bit. "I'm glad that it was satisfactory for you. When will Kurosaki-sama get to teach me how to fight, grandfather?" Byakuya asked. "You have your lessons to attend to and then you will have the rest of the afternoon to have Kurosaki-san help you in your fighting." Byakuya pouted and Ichigo chuckled, never seeing Byakuya pout in all the years he had ever known him. The fact that he was this rambunctious as a child, Ichigo had to wonder what went wrong to cause him to be the way he was in the future. He also really wondered why Byakuya hated him so much. As of now, the boy was so enthralled with him that he would have worshipped Ichigo like a god, or so he felt. "In the meantime, Kurosaki-san, if you would like to accompany me to the squad sections, I would most appreciate it," Jinrei said. Ichigo looked at the older man and nodded, stuffing a scoop of rice into his mouth. He wasn't sure why the old man seemed to believe him so much but at the moment, only Jinrei and Urahara seemed to have any touch of belief in him being thrown into the past. "Do these look familiar to you?" Jinrei asked as they walked down some of the walkways of the squads. Ichigo nodded. "Yes. I've walked some of these walkways before. There are people I even recognize but they wouldn't recognize me. I know this is very confusing for you. It's confusing to us as well as this could have happened. You say that the Precipice World caused your time travel. How did that happen? I honestly can't tell you how. All I know is that Urahara wanted me to get a sample of the Koryu so that he could study it and suddenly I was thrown back in time. I only knew that though because of when I mentioned some people, everyone looked at me like I was crazy. It's not very thrilling to know everyone thinks you're a lunatic." Jinrei nodded, looking around at the moment when they heard a commotion somewhere in the distance. Jinrei sighed a little. "Squad 11 must be having issues again." "Squad 11? Isn't Kenpachi in there?" Jinrei looked at Ichigo. "Do you know him?" "We are acquaintances. I'm not quite sure what we would consider ourselves to each other. I guess sparring partners would be a better term for it." Jinrei stopped moving and put his hand on Ichigo's shoulder to stop him. "Sparring partners? You just spar with Kenpachi?" "Yeah." A crash sounded behind Ichigo and he turned around, a man getting up off the ground, blood all over him. Soon a foot appeared from the rubble and Kenpachi pulled himself out of the hole in the wall. Ichigo watched in fascination as Kenpachi stood above the man as the other coughed. "Get up," he demanded. Ichigo had never seen him look that way. His hair was pulled back and laying limp, not the pointed spikes with bells on the ends that Ichigo was used to seeing. He also seemed more violent, seeming to want to kill the man instead just fight. He watched the man for a moment when Ichigo saw Yachiru poke her head up over Kenpachi's shoulder and whisper something in his ear. He looked over and his eyes laid on Ichigo immediately. He grinned a scary grin as he walked over to Jinrei and Ichigo. "I sense a powerful spiritual pressure," he said with an animalistic grin. "Hello, Kenpachi," Jinrei said with a small bow. Ken-chan, the orange one is the one with the spiritual pressure," Yachiru said, pointing to Ichigo over his shoulder. Ichigo took a step back as Kenpachi looked at him with one eye. How could a scrawny kid like you have such an immense spiritual pressure? I just do. I'm not here to fight you. He is a new addition to my family for a while and I am showing him the grounds. Jinrei said with a smile. I would prefer if you didn't hurt him. Keh. Jinrei left and Ichigo followed but looked back at Kenpachi. I promise you'll have a fight with me later. He went around the corner and Yachiru looked at Kenpachi. Hey, Ken-chan, he seems strong, huh? Kenpachi nodded, wanting to know who he was. Urahara stared at the vial of black sludge with wide eyes. The contents of the black sludge from Ichigo's time held so many hidden things in it that could only be justified by Ichigo's statement of time travel. The Koryu from the present Precipice World had nothing interesting whatsoever in it and thus showed no activity. Urahara sat back in his seat and looked between the two vials, wondering what could have happened to cause such a fluctuation in the contents. He heard the door crack open and looked over, seeing Yoruchi coming in. Did you find anything? She asked. That Kurosaki-san is telling us the truth. There are so many things in this vial that he gathered and the vial from now. Ichigo really is from the future. Yoruchi sat on the side of his desk and crossed a leg over the other. What will you do then? I don't know. He's the only one that can tell us what will happen. Besides, I already believed he was from the future before I tested the vials. Why's that? A suspicion I had was accidentally revealed to me but only someone from the future would know that. Yoruchi nodded. Well, are you going to find a way to send him back? The longer he stays, the more things will change for him in the future. I can use some of the contents of the future Koryu to make up something. I think. Yoruchi nodded again and pushed herself from the table. Just don't get into trouble doing it, Captain. He smiled at her as she gave him a salute and left the lab. Byakuya was so excited to be learning from Ichigo. He waited impatiently at the door for Ichigo to come back. He had been practicing all day in the courtyard and Byakuya felt that he was ready to try his hand at fighting. Ichigo walked in and Byakuya ran to him quickly. Kurosaki-sama. I'm ready for my lesson. Ichigo nodded and stared to go out of the door when someone cleared their throat. Do you plan on fighting a child with a real sword? Ichigo looked at Zangetsu and then nodded. I guess not. Kentaro nodded and went to get some wooden swords, bringing them back. Ichigo reluctantly relinquished Zangetsu to Kentaro and followed Byakuya to the outside area. Are you ready? Yeah. Hey, you said that I had a Shirkai, right? I don't remember saying that. Well, not exactly, but you made me say that weird saying before and I was watching some people from the Soul Society and the ones with Shikais or Bankais all say things like that to activate their powers. So I'm gonna guess that my Zanpakuto has to do with cherry blossoms. Ichigo smirked a little. You're pretty observant, kid. Well. Does it? He asked, putting his sword in the ground and leaning on it. What does my Zanpakuto do? Is that its name? I can't tell you that, Byakuya. You'll just have to learn the hard way. Byakuya growled and took a stance to begin fighting. I could make you tell me, you know. I doubt that. You've got a long time before you have that kind of authority. I'll fight you for it. You won't get me to tell you. Just leave it at that. Byakuya came at Ichigo, who easily dodged the attack and laughed at the anger Byakuya was displaying. This was the complete opposite of the calm and cool man that he usually fought. With that temper, you'll never PSS me off. Ichigo said with a laugh. They finally stopped under a cherry tree that was there and Byakuya swung his wooden sword at Ichigo as he ducked and it hit the trunk. Some leaves flew down as Byakuya huffed and puffed, angry but not ready to give up. You are a funny kid. Byakuya looked up for a moment and then yelled. Scatter, Senbenzakura, he screamed, throwing his sword at the tree. The force of the throw hit a good branch and cut it clean through, causing it to shed a good amount of cherry blossoms to fall on Ichigo. He looked at the angry boy and then laughed because nothing else happened when the heavy laden branch fell on his head and knocked him out for a second. Byakuya gave a victorious smile to the branch and put his hands on his hips, a haughty look on his face. Senbon Sakura, we got a long way. How come and I haven't seen your powers yet? Byakuya asked Ichigo over dinner one night. Ichigo coughed on his rice and grabbed his tea, gulping it down. It had been about 2 weeks since his arrival in the past and so far, nothing seemed to be going wrong. Urahara kept asking him questions and prying, like always, and Ichigo busied himself in training Byakuya during the day as well as secretly trying to find out where some of his friends were. He was disappointed to find out that both Rukia and Renji were never heard of and might have been in the Rukon district or not in the Soul Society at all. Even so, no one had mentioned the amount of spiritual pressure he was spouting out, and luckily for him, he still seemed to have retained a good amount of it since he wasn't fighting Hollows and Espada all the time. The question, though, took him very off guard since there hadn't been any questions like it in a while. "There's no need to show it, so why would I show you?" he answered coolly. Byakuya frowned. "I want to see it." "You're not going to, kid. It would be nice to see the amount of strength you had," Genrei said. Surprising Ichigo. "With such spiritual pressure flowing out of you all the time, you must have wonderful technique." Ichigo shrugged. "I think it's more of a slash and crash thing. I'm not really fluid in fighting, just using more of my brute strength." "You always hated that, or you will, something like that," Ichigo said to Byakuya, confusing himself. Byakuya turned his head at him. "So, do I not like you?" "Yeah. I don't know why, but you don't." "How is that?" "You're so awesome. You've got this power that's like Wabam and stuff and you won't even show me." Ichigo was still getting used to the more outspoken, easily enraged, and ironically awed Byakuya, so he just smiled awkwardly. "I'm sure if something happens you'll see it." Byakuya nodded when he felt his hair tie get pulled from his hair. He turned and grabbed but was too late to get the intruder. "I can still get your hair tie, Byakuya. You haven't been practicing," Yoruchi said from the other side of the room, holding his hair tie. Byakuya growled, his hair falling into his face, and Ichigo could see more of the man he knew in the boy in front of him. "Give it back," he yelled, running after her. Yoruchi laughed and Shunpaed outside of the dining room. Byakuya ran to the ledge and watched her as she smiled. "Are you going to come and get it?" He growled and stepped off the ledge to Shunpa up to her, but since his skills were not fully acquired, after a few times, he began to fall instead. The sound of his screams caught Ichigo's attention and he immediately used his flash step to catch boy. The appearance of Ichigo under Byakuya before Yoruchi got to him astounded her and she staggered back. How did you do that?" Ichigo put Byakuya down and looked at her. "I've always known now to do that." "So fast though, that was almost as fast as me." "It was faster than you." "I was waiting to see if Byakuya would regain his composure, but when I saw him unable to, I was about to catch him." "That was awesome. I knew you were hiding something," Byakuya said with a look at Ichigo. "Don't worry, you're definitely going to get better at that," Ichigo said, remembering vividly the first time he ever met Byakuya and how fast he was. "Captain Urahara wants to speak with you," Yoruchi said, beginning to leave. "He says he's gotten a revelation on some things for you." Ichigo nodded. Upon entering Squad 12, he was promptly met by Hiyori's foot to his face and he fell backward. "What took you so long?" she growled, standing over him. "Hiyori, there's no need to hurt him. Go play with Shinji for a bit. I'm sure you haven't called him Baldy in a while." Hiyori nodded. "You're right. I haven't seen that idiot for a while." She walked out but not without kicking Ichigo in the butt as hard as she could. Ichigo hissed and walked into the room. "Yoruchi said you wanted me to come here." "Yes. I've been studying the choreo from the Precipice World some more and have presented it to the head captain. He believes that you have come from the future to the past due to the data I gave him based on this. In that sense, I have also taken the liberty to check some of the choreo that was on you and have found some troublesome information. Ichigo nodded and sat in the chair behind him. How is that? For starters, your powers are waning greatly. I'm surprised you even made it into the Soul Society with the amount of Ryatsu you were holding in your body. You haven't been doing any techniques, have you? Just a little flash step, but no, I haven't done anything but regular sword play. I see. Well, despite that, I can sense that you still have an exorbitant amount of spiritual pressure within you. Now, I can't keep you from losing the Ryatsu, but I can make you something to limit it as long as you don't do any techniques. Ichigo brightened. Really? Yes. But like I said, you cannot use any techniques at all. If you do, it will continue to sap the Ryatsu. In that regard, I have also figured out a way to get you to your time. I have calculated the exact date for the Koryu and I believe I can get you back. It will take a while, but I can do it. Can you wait? Ichigo nodded. Yes. I can wait. Good. I will get started on it as soon as possible. I will get you the formula I have made and like I said, no techniques at all. Ichigo nodded and Urahara went to get the formula. As Ichigo left Squad 12, he was walking toward the Kuchiki mansion when he heard some commotion. It sounded like two people fighting and Ichigo ducked behind a bush. He knew it really was a moot point but he had to see what was going on. He opened the bush's leaves and peered through it to see what was going on. There he found someone yell out and fall to the ground, dead. Ichigo narrowed his eyes, not able to see who was there. You did a good job. But tell me, why did you kill him? Ichigo knew that voice and watched on as the person finally turned around and he gasped. The boy looked at Aizen with that perpetual grin and squinted eyes and shrugged. He did not seem important enough to mention in the future. Aizen nodded. That's a good answer, Jin. Ichigo knew something was going to happen. He didn't know when but he knew he had to have things take their course or what happened to him would never come about. I have to stay quiet even though I know things are going to go to hell from here. Ichigo stayed with the Kuchiki family, teaching Byakuya how to fight, being his mentor. The calculations and experimenting was taking longer than Urahara expected and so the years began to pass. With each year and with the help of the serum that Urahara had made for Ichigo, Urahara actually found out that by Ichigo being in the past, his Ryatsu was slowly regaining itself. With that knowledge, Ichigo felt a little better about teaching Byakuya and was even able to show him his Shirkai. Training one-on-one with Byakuya drew the two closer than Ichigo ever imagined they could be. It almost felt like he had a real younger brother, not Karen being a tomboy but a real brother. Byakuya was becoming so accustomed to Ichigo's presence that he began to call Ichigo Ni-sama. He respected him and had grown to love him. Ni-sama. Byakuya yelled, kicking Ichigo in the back as he walked back to the mansion. Ichigo got up and clenched his fist. Byakuya. When do I get to see your Bankai? I've seen Getsuga Tensho but I want to see your Bankai. You'll see it. Really? Guaranteed, in the future. Byakuya made a face. You need to be getting dressed. For what? In observation of the 5 great houses of the Siriidii. You should know this. But I wasn't invited last time. It only happens every 50 years and I wasn't old enough then. I just got here 9 years ago and even I know about the banquet. You really need to focus on your studies instead of trying to fight me all the time. He said, hitting Byakuya on the head. Byakuya kicked him in the stomach. You can't tell me what to do. Oh, we're being an angsty thing now aren't we? Ichigo said with a laugh. Even though 9 years was a short time for a Soul Reaper, Byakuya had grown a lot and seemed to be developing a sour attitude. Ichigo wondered if this marked the start of the stoically annoying Byakuya that he remembered. Byakuya frowned and moved in front of Ichigo. I'm not angsty. Besides, I'm the heir to the Kuchiki clan and almost taller than you. I can defeat you. Ichigo stifled his guffaw horribly. I've defeated higher status, taller, bigger, and faster. Try it. Byakuya narrowed his gray eyes and took out his sword. Ichigo watched him, and just as Byakuya threw he had him, Ichigo was suddenly gone. Byakuya gasped when he felt a sharp point at his neck. Lose. Byakuya moved out Ichigo's hand and put his hand to his neck. How did you do that? What kind of flash step was that? Ichigo realized he's used Sonido instead of Shuinpa and looked away, hoping that the strange spiritual pressure didn't alert any of the guards. You'll never learn it. Come on, enough fooling around. They walked into the grounds of the mansion and went to separate rooms to get ready for the banquet. Byakuya, I would like you to meet the head of the Shiba clan, Isshin Shiba. Jinrei said, motioning to the man in front of him. Byakuya made a face, though he bowed in respect. His square jaw and slightly large eyes made him think of Ichigo, but he quickly dismissed him since he didn't really look anything like this man. Then again, Kaiin Shiba looked just like Ichigo but with black hair. He found it odd that the two of them were talking in a corner together. Black hair and orange hair. So, you're the heir to the Kuchiki clan, eh? You don't look like a leader yet. Byakuya made a face and crossed his arms. For your information, old man, I have Ichigo Kurosaki teaching me how to fight and my studies are going well. Is that so? Isshin said, and Byakuya swore he saw the same type of smile Ichigo gave him on occasion. I'd like to meet this Ichigo you speak so fondly of. He's over there. Kurosaki-sama, he yelled across the way. Ichigo looked over as Byakuya waved to him. Ichigo immediately saw Isshin standing there and opted to wave back like he thought Byakuya was just waving. He put his hand down and turned back to Kaiin. Are you avoiding your master? Not him, the man in front of him. He's my uncle. Kaiin said with a hand on his chin. What? Yup. Who are we talking about? A woman asked as she walked up to Kaiin. She was very beautiful and was dressed in a beautiful gray kimono with white cranes and clouds as the pattern. Ah, Misaki. Kaiin said, putting his arm around her waist. Who is this, ironically familiar-faced man? She asked with a quirky smile toward Ichigo, obviously a little taken aback at their similarity. This is Ichigo Kurosaki, Byakuya Kuchiki's sword trainer. Nice to meet you. Pleasure dash. Ichigo. Byakuya growled, hitting Ichigo square in the spine as he walked up, making Ichigo pitch forward. I called for you. I am deaf. Ichigo twitched. Hello, young Master Kuchiki. Misaki said, stifling a giggle behind her kimono sleeve. Byakuya turned to her and bowed to her respectfully, his ponytail flopping over his head. Misaki curtsied to him. Lady Shiba. You're lively tonight. Do forgive the child, he knows not how to act. Ichigo said with slightly evil grin. I do dash. Whoops, got your hair tie. Byakuya turned as Yoruchi smiled at him and held up the string to his hair. Byakuya was a little taken aback by his Shunpa teacher's very elegant kimono that were light shades of purple and had very elegantly designed cat on the back of it. Your guard is terrible. Ichigo, what are you teaching this kid? Have you not done anything to help his awareness? She growled to Ichigo. He just shrugged. I could have told you that I was the last person to ask in regards to keeping up with people. I usually go in without reservations and figure it out on the way. Yeah. It's a great way to do it. 'Cause things could happen that you didn't expect and you'll be able to defend yourself easier. Yoruchi, Kaiin, and Misaki all looked at Ichigo with disapproving looks and he waved his hands in the air in denial. I never taught him that. Besides, I never said it was the right way to do things but just how I do it. The three looked at each other and Yoruchi bonked Byakuya on the head. Start trying to look at your surroundings, please. I'm sorry to interrupt but I need to speak with Kurosaki-san for a moment. She slipped her arm in his black-clad one and they walked away. Kisuke wanted me to tell you to meet him at the Research and Development Center. He had some news for you regarding returning home. Really? He also has some concerns over some matters that have been happened around the Siriidii. As in? Disappearing people. More to discuss later without so many meddling ears. Tell me, Ichigo Kurosaki, are you getting comfortable here? The two stopped and Ichigo looked down at her as she looked at him with a waiting look. He didn't say anything and after a bit of staring, Yoruchi smirked slightly. Don't get too attached. You don't belong in this time, remember that. He nodded and they walked around for a little bit. Ichigo went to the Research and Development Center and opened the door to one of the labs. Urahara was looking at specimens in a microscope on the table. Yoruchi said you wanted to see me? He looked up. Yes, I'm glad you're here. I have found a way to get you back to your own time. So I've heard. Urahara smiled, leaning back on his chair. You've gotten accustomed to this life, haven't you? He asked with a smirk. I don't really have a choice dash. You've gotten attached to Kuchiki-sama, haven't you? If you mean dealing with a whiny, angsty dash. Ichigo. Ichigo saw that Urahara was seeing right through his facade. He couldn't deny the fact that Byakuya reminded him of Karen a lot and also reminded him of home. Besides, Byakuya was the only person besides the captains, the Kuchiki family, Urahara and Yoruchi that knew about him being from the future, but Byakuya was the most familiar person he knew. Sure, the normally stoic Soul Reaper was much different than he remembered, but he was also a very young child. Kurosaki-san, you must cut ties with him. You've already changed things because of your presence here, especially since it has been for so long. I know. Kuchiki-sama will be fine without you. I should be able to get things ready by next week, so you need to relinquish your duties as personal sword trainer to the Shino Academy. It will help him to hone on his other abilities and learn other abilities. You can no longer teach him anything useful, unless you show your true power to him. Ichigo looked at him. I know you have some sort of hidden power within you that you have been keeping at a minimum. If you're keeping it back, then you believe that it will complicate things now. If that's the case, you cannot teach the young master anything more. It's time to let go. Ichigo nodded. I understand. Ichigo and Jinrei sat across from each other at the kotatsu in the tea room. Jinrei sipped the tea in his cup as Ichigo did the same. So, you are going to your own time? He said. I am told about a week or so. I see. Byakuya will miss you. He has been so lonely with the death of his parents, you gave him the will to fight. He always had it. I promise he'll be a great warrior. So you say. Kurosaki-san, I have noticed that you harbor great power within you. I don't understand it, but it seeps from you slowly. You hold back when you fight as if it will explode. Ichigo looked at his hand. What powers I have are no accepted here yet. I would be considered a threat. I see. He will not be pleased to be given up to the Shino Academy. He is not good with people. Definitely not. Go with him. Excuse me. Ichigo said with a surprised look. Jinrei sipped his tea again and then set it down on the table. He was hoping you would be there when he received the Kuchiki clan scarf in the Jinpaku Kazahana no Yuzujinu ceremony. You mean that white scarf you got? He asked, pointing to Jinrei's neck. I thought that was just a neat accessory or something. Jinrei, for the first time in the 9 years that Ichigo had known him, gave Ichigo a look that he knew too well, for Byakuya had inherited it very well. This scarf is made of silk from the silver-white wildflower and is worth 10 or more mansions. The passing of the scarf is an indication of the transition of the family head. You want him to be the head now? No, but we thought you'd be here for the ceremony. Oh, but wouldn't that be a long time from now? Did you really expect me to stay that long? With time there are so many different variables that have to be put into place. Though I have no doubts that Captain Urahara could do it, the process seems to still be very meticulous. I see. Therefore, if you cannot attend the ceremony, then the least you can do is see Byakuya off to the academy. I can do that. I am glad, though, can you really tell him goodbye? Ichigo looked down but nodded. It will be hard but I can do it. Good. Byakuya was practicing his swordplay in the courtyard the next morning as Ichigo watched him from the shadows for the moment. He sighed at having to tell him about the academy but walked toward the young man. Byakuya dash. I know you're leaving. He said without looking at him. Do you? I overheard you and grandfather last night. He turned to him. You're sending me off to Shino. I have to. You could stay. I can't. The longer I stay here, the more time will change. But what if your staying is what makes me who I am? Or what makes things go the way they do in your time? I highly doubt that. You just want to go home. Byakuya said with a look. Well, I do miss my family, even though Goof I call a dad. Fine. Go. I don't want you here anyway. Now don't get dash. Just go away. Ichigo sighed and left to go visit Urahara. Byakuya isn't too happy, the scientist asked when Ichigo entered the room. No. Well, I'm getting there with the formula to get you home. Why don't you go stroll around Shino to take a look at what us Soul Reapers have to go through? We aren't born with your type of skill, well, most of us aren't. You might even see some familiar faces. You never told me about the disappearing members from the other night. Urahara looked up from the microscope and smiled at him. It's nothing for you to worry about, believe me. Ichigo made a face but decided to do what Urahara had suggested and go see what the Shino Academy was like. I've heard about it but it's not like I'd ever get to see it. When he got there, he used his connection with the Kuchiki clan to get a tour of the academy. So far, he was seeing a lot of things he never knew they trained for, but he was also on the lookout for people he knew. Oh. Excuse me. Hey, Shiba-sama, you colored your hair, a young woman's voice said from behind Ichigo. Ichigo turned and blinked as he looked down at a very young Matsumoto. He only knew it was her because she still provocatively wore her outfits to show off her immense cleavage. Actually, I'm not Kyan. Wah. But you look just like him. I get that a lot. Oh, Kurosaki-san. Ichigo froze for a moment but turned to find Aizen with his shaggy hair and glasses walking up to him. Strange to see you here. Have you come to be a Shinigami? No. Byakuya is going to be coming here now. I thought I would check it out before he came. Well, we are the only Soul Reaper school in the Soul Society, so. Have you lost interest in the young master? He asked with his cool smile. Ichigo watched the calm man he knew was secretly harboring a devious plan to take over the world, remembering how horribly accurate he was with the use of manipulating his peers with his Zanpakuto. Ichigo's eyes flickered to the hilt for a moment and then he smiled. Byakuya is a good kid with great skill, but I'm afraid I have more to teach him. Surely you must have something left to teach him. He said with a suspicious look. Ichigo knew he was digging for information. What I have he cannot learn at all, if not without the help of the academy. I see. Your qualities must lie in swordplay then. More or less. Well, I hear that the young master is most excellent at calligraphy. He should take my class. It's an awesome class. Matsumoto said, almost forgotten in the hidden battle between the two. Oh, Jin. Look at this guy. Doesn't he look like Kyan Shiba-sama, she said, grabbing Jin's hand. Ichigo was surprised that Jin didn't make a face at her for touching him so casually, but he allowed her to drag him in front of Ichigo. He looked at him with his squinted eyes and smiled. Yes, he does. I'm sure Shiba-sama was delighted to see that. Jin. Aizen said to Jin with a slight chastise. My pupil speaks out of line about the head of the Shiba clan. It's fine. It was nice meeting you all, but I should probably get back to touring the grounds. He began to walk off. We should get to know each other better, Kurosaki-san. I believe we have much to teach each other. Ichigo stopped walking. Yeah. Lots. He turned around because he couldn't help himself and looked at Aizen with a confident expression. Hey, Aizen. Aizen turned from having walked off. Just a thought for you but don't get a big head. Aizen's perpetual slight smirk actually faltered for a moment. Whatever do you mean? It's just a thought. I mean, it's not like I know the future or something. He waved at him and Matsumoto waved back. Bye-bye, she said. Aizen watched Ichigo leave the room and then looked at Jin. Follow him. My pleasure. Are you sure you don't want me to go in there with you? Ichigo asked. You're going back to your time. I don't need you. Byakuya growled from in front of him. You're being obnoxious, as always. Byakuya was already angry that Ichigo was going home and that he would have to stay here at the academy with the ingrates and low lives of the Soul Society, plus wear the hideous uniform he was required to wear, but now his mentor wanted to get preachy. Byakuya turned back to Ichigo with a sharp glare that Ichigo knew all too well. All the better for you to go back to your own time. You seem to know me so well. Then go back there. Byakuya dash. Stop. Stop following me. I don't want you near me anymore and I don't want you to see me. I don't want to see you, hear you, sense your spiritual pressure. I can find the classroom all by myself. He tromped off down the hallway and then walked back up. Where the hell's the classroom? Ichigo sighed and pointed in the opposite direction. Thank you. He walked off again and Ichigo rolled his eyes at Byakuya's antics. It's not like he'd never see Ichigo again. Kurosaki Ichigo, he yelled from the other hallway. Ichigo sighed again. Great, here comes the full name thing. He turned the corner and found Byakuya waiting for him at another hallway with 2 ways to go. Which way? I thought you knew the way to the classroom by yourself. Byakuya made a face. You're not very good at directions, are you? I dunno. Maybe you should ask me in your own time. He spat. Ichigo had had about enough of Byakuya's angsty smart mouth and grabbed him, pulling him close. First of all, you had some major grudge against me then, so I wouldn't even dream of asking you a trivial question such as that. Plus, you'd even be smug enough to say it too. Kurosaki Ichigo, you disappoint me by attempting to engage me in such a foolhardy and irrelative question. 4. The sake of your lack of brain activity, I'm going to deny answering you. Yup, that's what your smug but would say. Byakuya blinked. I talk like that? Yeah. It's annoying as hell. He let go of Byakuya. Second of all, you need to lower your voice when you want to be bratty about my time things. There are people here who would love to know things. And your big mouth isn't helping it along. Fine, whatever. Is that the class? He asked, pointing. Looks like it. You are released from my training now. Go. Byakuya walked to the door and went inside. Ichigo frowned and started to walk away when he felt a spiritual pressure behind him. Are you supposed to be in class, Jin? He turned as Jin walked out of the shadows with a shrug. Oh no, it seems you've discovered me. He said in a none too convincing tone. Don't play with me. You and wanted and me to sense you. Jin just smiled and looked up at Ichigo. You have a strange spiritual pressure, Kurosaki-sama. It's very unique. Thanks for noticing. You like being around Aizen. He's my mentor. I wouldn't get too involved with someone so powerful. Powerful? Aizen-sama is as powerful as any other lieutenant. Is he? Jin actually frowned and Ichigo rustled his hair. You're creepy and weird but don't waste your time on Aizen. You've got better things to do with your time-ek. He began to walk away again. How do you know? Jin asked. I dunno. Intuition. Ichigo yelled back to him. 1 week later. Ichigo went to the Research and Development Center to talk with Urahara and burst open the door. You said you'd have it by now, he yelled at the captain. Urahara turned to him and smiled a tight smile. Kurosaki-san, we have a guest, he said with a glance to the side. Ichigo looked and Aizen smiled from the chair as he pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose. I'm sorry, did I interrupt something? He asked. No, he was just waiting for me to complete the formula for the best miso soup ever. We have wanted to try it for a while now. Really? When it's complete, I'd love to try some. Of course, Aizen-san. Anytime. Sorry I couldn't answer any of your questions though. Not at all, Urahara Taicho. I'll just have to do some research. Kurosaki-san, I hope your miso turns out delicious. Thanks. Aizen got up and began to walk out but caught Ichigo by the shoulder and whispered his ear. You are an interesting man. I will watch you very carefully. He left completely and Ichigo looked at Urahara, who had his hand on his chin. If he didn't give me chills before he certainly does now. Urahara. We need to get you back now. But dash. The serum has been ready for a long time but Aizen has been watching me using that boy. I have been meaning to bring it to you but it is too risky to do so with him watching him. Then how will I get back home? Yoruichi has a plan and has gotten Shiba-sama and Jinrie-sama to help with it. Jinrie-sama? He is indebted to you for helping with Byakuya. The plan will commence 2 days from now. Ichigo nodded and left the Research and Development Center. Byakuya watched the class, bored out of his mind. These people were dumb, stupid, and far beneath him. He felt more superior to them. He felt someone watching him and looked in the corner to see Jin over there. Upon meeting eyes, he walked up to Byakuya and leaned against the wall with him. You look at them as if they are not on your level. They aren't. I am the next head of the Kuchiki clan. I shouldn't be here with these imbeciles. I understand your frustration. I think I'm at least 10 times smarter than the people in this room. My name is Jin. I don't really care about your name. Because I'm beneath you. Byakuya looked at him. You are smart. Jin smiled. The two were silent for a while as they watched the teacher teach the class a recitation for a Kido attack. So, you and Kurosaki-san. You seem pretty close. Kurosaki-sama is of no concern to you. He's not concerned to me anymore either. I can see this is a sore subject with you. Did he do something to you? No. Just leave me alone. Jin nodded and left Byakuya alone. Byakuya left the room and went to the balcony to look out over the training ground. He watched as some of the students did Kido and Bakudo that lit up very brightly and illuminated the dusk sky as the sun began to set. He hated being here but since Ichigo was going back to his own time, he didn't need him anymore. He was a nuisance and Ichigo probably knew more about him than anyone else did. Suddenly, a strange spiritual pressure issued forth and hit Byakuya full force. The sudden appearance of such a pressure told Byakuya that it was a hollow. Even though he had been taught how to defeat a hollow by Ichigo and they had been described to him, he had never seen a real hollow. He grabbed his sword and ran out to see what a hollow looked like. Looks like trouble. Ichigo said as he looked to where the hollow had appeared. Should I go defeat it? Jinrei looked at him and turned his head ever so slightly. Do you think those who go to the academy will not learn to extinguish a hollow? Leave it to them, Ichigo. This is what they are ultimately trained for. Ichigo nodded but he was itching for a fight. If no one could get it he would definitely do it. They could hear the hollow call all the way from the Kuchiki mansion and didn't do anything for a while when Kentaro ran into the room, seeming very out of breath. Kuchiki-sama. I have news from the academy. What is it? They said that this is not an initiated attack for training purposes. This is a real hollow. So all the classes counted up to the students and, well, Byakuya-san is gone. Gone? Jinrei asked with raise of his white eyebrows. He's nowhere to be found. Jinrei looked away from his tea and oddly enough to him, felt the butterflies in his stomach. Do you want me to go and get him for you? I have a feeling he's gone to see the hollow. Go. Save him. Ichigo got up and began to leave but turned back to Jinrei. It's still alive, so I'm assuming the academy can't handle it. To defeat him I will have to reveal what I've been hiding all along. Will you still accept me, no matter what I say? I will vouch for your innocence. Just bring me back my grandson in one piece. Ichigo nodded and headed to where the hollow was, happy to be able to release what's been hidden away. Byakuya walked over to where some of the destruction of the hollow was and was surprised at its power. He looked over and finally saw the hollow. It was something only seen in books and heard about from his grandfather, Ichigo, and Yoruchi. It had to have been 13 feet tall, white all over with a hard shell, and looked almost like a snake with 4 pudgy legs. Well, more like a snake that had 8 heads to it. It seemed not to be able to be cut all the way through because of the thickness of some sort of armor. Byakuya watched as some soul reapers came and started to fight with it, but it overcame them one by one, eating them or stabbing them with its many tongues. One of the soul reapers was finally able to cut off one of the heads of the hollow and it yelled out in pain. A few seconds later though, where that head was, another grew, and where the head lay, a body grew out of it and they both gave a unison roar of triumph. Byakuya gasped, backing up from the scene but was stopped by a tree behind him. The little head heard him and turned, running toward him. Byakuya took off running in the opposite direction of the academy, the severed head's new form. Running after him. One of the soul reapers saw that the head was heading toward Byakuya and ran off to get the head. As Byakuya ran, he tripped and fell but turned over, crab-walking as the hollow jumped into the air to descend on him. He threw his hand in the air and on instinct recited Aikido. Shikaho, he yelled as a red force came from his hand. The hollow shattered into pieces and Byakuya breathed a sigh of relief. Just then, one of the soul reapers ran up to him and stopped. Kuchiki-san. What are you doing out here? You can get killed. I defeated a hollow. Did you see that? Yes, but we need to dash. The soul reaper stopped talking as something flew through his stomach. Byakuya watched as the man began to dissolve from the abdomen outward, flesh, muscles, then bone until he disintegrated. Byakuya saw that 2 more of the heads must have been cut off, for now there were 2 more hollows and the other soul reapers were dealing with the multiple-headed one. The parts that Byakuya had blown up were beginning to move now in growing bodies. He gulped, realizing he should have left a long time ago. He got up and began to run as the little pieces became tiny versions of the hollow before but seemed more like a million little ants, screaming in unison like all the others. Byakuya could hear the sound of the men screaming from the acid hitting them, and he was lucky that more soul reapers had come and the only things after him were the tiny ones. They were throwing their long tongues out, hitting Byakuya's legs with acid and beginning to jump. They finally got the same idea and a bunch of them jumped at the same time and brought Byakuya down, holding him down and scratching, biting, and sticking their tongues into his skin. Since they were so small, it didn't start corroding Byakuya but it hurt him to no end. He screamed in agony, unable to get up when he felt them stop and leave his body. He opened an eye and saw someone in a strange version of the Shihakusho and slightly long orange hair. The person looked behind him and Byakuya smiled. Ni-sama. Ichigo turned around fully and whacked him in the head. You dumbass. Look at you. What made you want to come out here? I just wanted to see a hollow up close. You dummy. You don't just want to see a hollow. They will definitely kill you. You're old enough to know these things. I'm sorry. I wanted to know what it felt like. You'll learn later. He held out his hand. Now come on, let's get you home. He took his hand and stood but swayed a little. Ni-sama. What? I'm not feeling very well. Those little hollows have acid on their tongues. He almost fell over but Ichigo caught him. The more you cut the more it grows. The tongue is dangerous on the big ones. We need to get you to a healer or something. Ichigo, they're dying. You have to save those guys. I'll be alright. Your job is to protect people, right? Then go protect them. Ichigo was apprehensive but he nodded and stood up as he had one of the bigger ones coming toward them. I'll protect you. You can't just cut it dash. Then I'll just have to destroy it completely, right? He looked behind him and smiled. Don't worry about me. Remember, I told you that you'd get to see my Bankai someday. Byakuya nodded as Ichigo turned to the hollow. Hey, ugly. I think you picked the wrong time to attack here. You may not know me very well but I can tell you one thing, I know how you things work very well. The hollow threw its tongue at Ichigo but he dodged it just as the shattered pieces began to grow again. Byakuya watched as Ichigo threw his hand over his face and pulled, a hollow mask forming around him and he took off in another direction, all the hollows following him away. Byakuya was getting weaker as he felt the acid from the tiny hollows begin to eat at his insides and he crawled over to a bush to be out of sight and to control the pain by using mind over matter. A darkness took over for a second and he shivered, coughing but remained totally still. He was in a bit of a daze but remembered his lessons on forgetting pain and concentrated on that. Ichigo finally defeated the hollow with one last blast of Getsuga Tensho, blowing every facet of the hollow to smithereens. He breathed hard, knowing it probably wouldn't do any good when he heard a voice behind him. Hado number 54, Heian. All the parts of the hollow went up in flames and then burst away. Ichigo looked behind him and saw Urahara looking at him calmly but with confusion. So this is what you have been hiding from us, isn't it? Ichigo released his mask and nodded. Urahara nodded and then pinched Ichigo's face and poked him for a second. What are you doing? How do you activate it? Huh? You're what I've been trying to make. How do you work? Never mind. You can't stay in the Soul Society any longer now that that power has been revealed. Not only will they not allow you to stay here but others who are out for badness will be attracted to you. I have finished the formula and was about to send you back home tonight but things seem to have gone awry. I will meet you at the Senkamen. I will send Yoruchi to get you. Ichigo nodded and turned in the same direction that Urahara was going in. Why are you following me? I'm not. The hollow attacked in this direction and Byakuya was waiting for me. The suspicious activity is in the same direction. I hope Byakuya-san didn't get involved with anything. We'll have to split up and you will take the back way as I go straight to the source. Ichigo nodded and went in another direction to go the back way. Byakuya was losing the battle of forgetting his pain and wanted to just die rather than endure the burning inside of his veins. Besides, whatever was happening on the other side of the bush didn't sound good at all and he just hoped no one saw him. He recognized a lot of the voices but he kept hearing the screams of hollows. He felt the ryatsu of people turn different, more hollow-like and he was actually scared. I'm going to die here, what if something like that happens to me? I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, a voice Byakuya knew said. He opened his eyes as Jin looked at him from above. He turned his head and Byakuya blinked at him. Jin looked up at someone calling him. Nothing. Aizen-sama. I thought I sensed something. He crouched down and reached over Byakuya. You weren't supposed to be here. This wasn't meant for you. He gripped the rock in his hand and hit Byakuya in the head, unconsciousness immediately taking over. Ichigo found Byakuya under the bush and knelt down to him. He saw where someone had hit him in the head and sneered at the pure audacity that they would hurt him like that. He was very quiet as he heard Urahara talking to someone and then quickly used Sonido to get back to the Kuchiki mansion a little faster than normal. Normally, he would care about the spiritual pressure the Sonido gave off but Byakuya was in trouble. Jinrei met Ichigo at the door, taking the boy from Ichigo immediately. Someone hit him in the head. He informed the older man. We have healers that can help him. I felt your spiritual pressure change. We will talk about that later. What is this white substance on his eyes? Ichigo looked at Byakuya and something thick and glue-like was oozing from his eyes. I don't know. That wasn't there before. I'm so sorry, Jinrei-sama. We'll discuss this later, Kurosaki-san. He said in a gruff tone. Unohana suddenly appeared and smiled at Ichigo. I'm sorry, young man, but you'll have to wait in the hallway while we heal the young master. But I dash. You. Wait. Out. Here. She said with a smile that gave off a horrid aura. Ichigo forgot the power Unohana had and flinched at her dangerous smile but decided it may have been best to leave them to do their jobs. She closed the door and he went to his room. All night he worried about what was going to happen with both him and Byakuya. He must have been in great pain because he heard him screaming in pain every once in a while. When he cried out, Ichigo wanted to be with him but they would never let him in. He finally attempted sleep and achieved a horrible version of it that included a very vivid dream in which Byakuya died and the Siriidii put Ichigo to death. Kurosaki-san. He heard someone say. Ichigo sat up quickly as Jinrei walked in, closing his door behind him. Ichigo stood up and swallowed hard. How is he? He is alive. Unohana said that it took so long because his body acted like he was trying to reject her healing advances. At one point it seemed the healing wasn't even working, almost like his body wasn't even Shinigami anymore, but she figured it out and pushed through. He's safe for now, but she said his memory, well. We're not quite sure how hard he was hit in the head. I see. Jinrei motioned to sit down and they sat across from each other. What are you, Kurosaki-san? Ichigo chuckled. I ask that same question all the time. I'm not truly sure. I am able to use hollow powers when I need to, but I don't really know why. When I was turned into a Shinigami, I almost became a hollow because my chain was eaten to my heart, but I defeated instead. What do you mean, turned into a Shinigami? I'm human but I had high spiritual pressure, so I saw the plus and such. Something happens and I gain the abilities of a Shinigami for a short while until they are taken away. Then, I had to gain my own ability, so my soul was knocked out of my body and I forcefully had to become a Shinigami. Jinrei frowned. Who would do that to a man? I can't really tell you. But I went to save my friend and then it turned into a war. After the war ended, I had used up all of my spiritual pressure and had just a little bit of time left when I was sent to get a sample of Koryu and then ended up here. Jinrei nodded and then looked at Ichigo for a moment. You realize that you cannot stay here any longer. I know. Urahara said that he was actually on his way here with the formula to send me back to Karakura town when the hollow arrived and an emergency came to his attention. I am supposed to wait for Yoruchi to come and get me. Jinrei stood up and Ichigo followed. Jinrei held out his hand and Ichigo shook it. This will most likely be the last time we will talk, Ichigo Kurosaki. You have been most extraordinary to know and I'm sure Byakuya will be stronger because of it. I hope I haven't messed anything up. I think you've made a better person out of my grandson. From what little you've described of him, he seems a real stick in the mud. Ichigo lifted his eyebrows at the statement. I hope his mannerisms change a little. You and me both. Can I see him? He is still unconscious, but yes, you may sit with him until Yoruchi comes. A Hell's Butterfly came in and announced that they were going to call in Urahara and Tessai to Central 46 for crimes that had been committed. It seems you have very little time. Yoruchi will be here for you very soon. It seems your friend has gotten himself into horrible trouble. Ichigo nodded and grabbed his Zanpakuto, going to Byakuya's room. He entered into the boy's room and found him laying very still, almost dead-like. Ichigo got on his knees and put his ear to Byakuya's mouth to listen for breathing. To his relief, he was breathing fine and he brushed the sweaty hair from Byakuya's face. There were scars all over his body from the little hollows, holes, and a very bad acidic burn on the left side of his face. You're going to be sad about that one. He said with a small chuckle. Byakuya winced at the remaining pain left in his body and then quieted. Ichigo smiled a little and picked up his hand for a moment. I will miss you, Byakuya. I truly will. When we meet again I will have never met you until I lose my powers. Please don't be angry because I don't remember you. I won't have met this side of you until later. Ichigo. He looked up and saw Yoruchi in the windowsill. We need to go now. We are in the middle of a crisis. Ichigo nodded and set Byakuya's hand down. He sighed and leaned over to whisper into the young Shinigami's ear. Do you remember why big brothers are born first? Ichigo. Ichigo got up and left with Yoruchi as Byakuya laid in the room alone. After a moment Byakuya only said one thing. Ichi-ni. Ichigo followed Yoruchi until she directed him to go somewhere else. I have a hideout. I have to go get Urahara-san and Tensai. He will give you the formula then and you can go back home. What's going on? I heard he was being tried for something. He is being accused of trying to make hollows and Tensai is being tried for using a forbidden Kido. They will strip their powers if I don't hurry. Go do what I said and we will meet you there. Ichigo nodded and snuck over to the main Senkamen and waited. After some minutes, Urahara appeared next to him. Here. I don't have much time. You need to plunge this into the Koryu as soon as you step foot into the Danai or you will just go to the time equivalent to our time now. You will notice a change and then you may proceed. Good luck, Kurosaki-kun. He left and Ichigo waited for the right time to use the formula. He figured nighttime would be much better and so fell asleep on the back side of one of the columns. When nightfall came, Ichigo snuck on the side of where the door was for the Senkamen, figuring out how to distract the guards when a strange noise sounded and the two guards left on their own. Ichigo thought it was luck when he saw Jin walking up to the door. Hello, Kurosaki-san. What do you want, Jin? Ichigo hissed. I can always call the guards back. He said with a turn of his head. Ichigo growled. What is it? You told me not to follow Aizen-sama. Why? I told you why. You said he was too powerful. Only someone who knows the future knows that. I'm not going to talk to you. You'll just tell Aizen and then everything will get screwed up on my end. He already knows most of my life anyway. According to him. I'm following Aizen so I can kill him. Ichigo looked at him as he frowned at him. For Ranjaku. Ichigo remembered when he died and kneels down to him. It's a moot point, Jin. He already knows that and he will kill you first. Jin smiled big again and then actually opened his eyes at Ichigo. Then this will be an interesting journey. They will be back soon, Kurosaki-san. Ichigo nodded and went to the Senkamen, the doors opening. He immediately put the formula into the Roryu. The doors closed behind him and it looked like the Danai rippled and the cleaner disappeared completely again. He ran through the pathway of the Roryu, ready to go back home and satisfied about his spiritual pressure being almost gone again. I have history I need to make sure I didn't change. Byakuya awoke in a strange room, a splitting headache drilling through his brain, splitting it in two and stretching it apart. Not only that but it felt as if something were trying to crawl out of his brain, scraping deep sharp nails on the inside of his head slow and deep. He winced. Closing his eyes again to keep out the piercing light that wasn't helping his mind. The darkness alleviated the pain somewhat, though there was still a very dull throb in the back of his eyes. How are you feeling, Byakuya? Someone asked. Byakuya a little dared to open an eye to look at who was speaking to him. He barely made out his grandfather in front of him. Aji-san. He croaked. You have been asleep for many days. My head hurts. You were hit in the head by what might have been a rock. No. On the inside. It's like someone scraping my brain, hammering at my eyes. Jinrei looked at his grandson in concern as Byakuya again and put his arm over his eyes. I will get Captain Unahona to come and take a look at you again. Ni-sama, where is Kurosaki-sama? Kurosaki-san left to go back to his own time. No. He was just here, he yelled under his arm. He didn't let me answer his question. He moved his arm and looked at his grandfather. Aji-san, I have to let him know that I understand his question. Byakuya, you are not well. Kurosaki-san told you that you would meet again. You can tell him then. But that's years from now. I cannot help that, for I cannot change time. Byakuya turned away from him as Jinrei sighed silently. Kurosaki-san is expecting you to be a fierce warrior. Show him that you can be everything he expected and more. You are a Kuchiki and we keep our promises. Byakuya breathed in deeply, closing his eyes again. I will be everything you expected of me, Kurosaki Ichigo. Some years later. Despite the constant urges to keep private training within the Kuchiki mansion, Byakuya didn't want to be alone anymore. He had spent so many years training by himself, and although he didn't really like people, he liked having them around him. And not just regular people, for he could have had that if he asked at the mansion. No, these were students that were the same age as him. These people were lower than him by far, but at least he could listen to interesting conversations that were far more entertaining than the ones with his guards. Today was a special day for him, and though he wished Ichigo was there with him to see the progress that he had made, he knew that Ichigo was waiting for him to reveal himself and impress him like he was waiting for him to do. Are you ready to achieve your Zanpakuto's name, Kuchiki Byakuya? Yes. I have had the dreams and am ready to go into its inner world. He's so dreamy. Matsumoto said to a young Nanao beside her. Matsumoto, hush. He has to concentrate. She said with a blush at thinking the exact same thing. Byakuya sat down on the floor, crossing his legs and setting his Zanpakuto over his knees. He closed his eyes and began to meditate to perform Jinzen. He had trained so hard to get to this point. He felt like he was falling for just a moment as darkness engulfed him. He suddenly felt a nice warm breeze all around him and opened his eyes. He was laying on a plain of lush green grass with hundreds and hundreds of sakura trees around the plain. He sat up slowly, taking in the realm of his Zanpakuto. He was happy to know that it was peaceful and not full of challenges right at the beginning of entering. Ichigo had told him once on how Zangetsu's world was very metaphorical to his aspirations. He wondered what it meant with the fact that there was not much going on. He decided to take a walk and see if he came across any buildings when he heard what sounded like tiny bells or tinkling. He made his way up a hill, and upon ascending it, he found a flurry of sakura petals in a blizzard down the hill. Curious, Byakuya made his way down the hill when the blizzard came at him. He blocked his face with his arms but was surprised that he felt tiny scratches all over his arm. When it stopped, he moved his arm and looked at where it looked like someone had whipped his arm. He looked up to see where the flurry had come from and found a samurai in the middle of some trees with full regalia as well as mask over his face. Byakuya made his way down the hill and went up to the clad warrior as it looked down at him. I've seen you in my dreams, you're my Zanpakuto. The warrior gave a slow nod. Then speak your name. The warrior turned its head and lifted up his sword. Scatter, he yelled in a deep voice. The cherry blossoms flew off of the trees and encompassed the blade of the sword before the warrior slashed his sword, sending a wave of cherry blossoms Byakuya's way. Byakuya moved away from the cherry blossoms as the warrior walked closer, the sakuras floating around him. You dare demand my name? Insolent boy! What are you to come into my abode uninvited and order me about? Who is Kuchiki Byakuya to travel here and think he can rule me? I am your master. You will do as I say. I don't think so, little boy. He seemed to disappear and reappear with the blade at Byakuya's neck. Not with that attitude. Byakuya growled and moved away from the sword, drawing his own sword to fight his Zanpakuto spirit. For what seemed like hours, the two fought inside Byakuya's inner world. The warrior seemed to tease Byakuya, making him get angry at the taunting and strike with unsure strikes. Finally, Byakuya had enough and closed his eyes to calm down when he felt how his Zanpakuto was moving and turned at the right moment, slicing a piece of the mask off of the warrior. The mask fell away and Byakuya took a step back in confusion. "What are you?" "Well, you finally caught me. You took long enough." The Zanpakuto spirit chastised. The man under the mask looked almost like Byakuya with some slight variations, not including the fact that the man under the mask was stark white, sporting black scara and beady red eyes with white pupils. He gave a maniacal smile and put the sword on his shoulder. "You're insulting me, Byakuya." "Why do you look that way?" he asked, feeling for some reason that he shouldn't look like that. "You're a bit on the rude side." "What does it matter what I look like? All you really want to know is my name, and so far, you're screwing up your chances by being so mad rude." Byakuya was used to the teasing, but it seemed like the spirit was almost obnoxious. The warrior scoffed and ripped off the headdress and the armor he was wearing. Long flowing white hair flowed behind him like a cape, and the clothing he had on under the armor seemed to resemble Ichigo's clothing that he was wearing when he had saved Byakuya so many years ago. The man stared at Byakuya with a sigh. "You don't remember me, do you? Should I?" He rolled his eyes as the scenery seemed to change, turning more into a dark, twisted forest, clouds thundering in and lightning striking. "Don't get stupid on me, Byakuya. I've been with you for a long time and you've been a pretty good host, strong, powerful, and completely oblivious to my presence. You never knew that I was lurking in the shadows of this inner realm, watching and mimicking what that stupid warrior did just so I could catch you. You didn't even notice the change inside of you. Stupid boy." A shadow suddenly descended on the man and he looked up, blocking a shot from another clad warrior. "Say my name," a deep but calmer voice said to him. "Hey, back off. I don't know it." Byakuya yelled. "You know it. You must listen. My name is Dash." "What? He is blocking you. Concentrate, Byakuya, listen closely." The two men continued to fight, but Byakuya closed his eyes and drowned out everything so that he could listen. "Senbon Sakura." Byakuya gasped. "Just say, in your most serious voice now, scatter, Senbon Sakura, and go like this with the sword." Ichigo put his sword in front of his face, the back of the sword toward him, almost making a line to separate his face. Byakuya moved his sword just like Ichigo had and smiled, triumphant. "Scatter. Senbon Sakura." Byakuya opened his eyes and found himself lying on his back with a bunch of faces staring at him from above. He blinked at them as Matsumoto got lower. "Are you alright? You were taking forever. What happened in there? Did you get the name of your Zanpakuto?" "Kuchiki-sama, are you alright?" the teacher asked. "I'm fine, and yes. I got a name." "That's great. What is it?" Matsumoto asked. Lisa gasped. "Your arm." Byakuya looked at where his arm was bloody. "So, what is it?" He looked at the sword and smiled. "Senbon Sakura," he said as he held it up. "Don't forget that I'm here too, boy. Just you wait. I will conquer you and I will rule you." Some months later, Byakuya was beginning to get the hang of his Zanpakuto. He was already very good at controlling his Shirkai when it came to wielding it and moving it around to match the movements he wanted out of it, but Senbon Sakura was a bit moody at times, so he often ended his training with many scratches. Byakuya had a suspicion the strange white man from before had some dealing with that, but it just made him want to train that much harder so that he could overcome the hiccup and become a great wielder. He had found a nice empty plane that no one seemed to have taken notice of and used it to practice moving the blades along at the same time, and discovering the more control he had, the less he got sliced. He was training on the plane at the moment when he lost focus and Senbon Sakura lashed back at him, cutting him. He cursed and the blades collected back into the hilt and Byakuya frowned. "Wow!" a small voice said. He turned swiftly and saw a young black-headed girl watching him in the corner of the clearing. "Who are you? You could have gotten hurt." "I'm sorry." I heard what sounded like wind blowing through small chimes, but when I followed the noise, I ended up here and found such a beautiful cloud of sakura petals. I know they don't make noises like chimes, and then I saw your sword. Is that a shurikai? Yes, but they are not really sakura petals. They are blades. I see. She walked tentatively closer, her black hair falling into her face. Can you do it again? Senbon Sakura is not a toy for a commoner's entertainment. Ah, come on. You're not even a Shinigami, nor do I sense any spiritual pressure coming from you. Why would I waste my shurikai on the likes of you? The girl shrugged. To be nice. Nice? To you. You're a commoner. So that would, wait, how did you get into the Siriidii anyhow? You shouldn't be able to go in and out like that unless you have spiritual pressure to cultivate. So how did you get in? The girl just smiled and found a big boulder to sit on. I dunno. Byakuya frowned. I'm not going to show you my shurikai, peasant. Okay. Byakuya turned and did some sword moves, waiting for the girl to leave him so he could train some more, but she never left. She watched him, her elbows on her knees as she held her face in her hands. She didn't have anywhere to go and was content on watching the silly, arrogant boy trying so hard to be authoritative. When it was obvious that the girl was not going to go, Byakuya decided to strike a deal with her. Fine. Tell me how you got into the Siriidii and I will show you my shurikai. How do I know you won't go back on that? I am a Kuchiki and we do not go back on our promises. A Kuchiki? Is that a species of animal? That's my name, you imbecile. You must be from the Rukongai if you do not know my name. Guilty. She said with a raise of her hand. Tell me how you got here. The girl slipped off the boulder and walked over to him. She watched him for a moment, then reached up to touch his face where the acid scar was. How did this happen? She asked softly. You're avoiding the question. He said, pulling away. I know. She reached out again. What a beautiful face. It's not beautiful. He growled, pulling away again. It's hideous. I bear it as a memory of my stupidity. I vowed to never be that dumb again. You haven't changed much. The obnoxious voice said in his mind. The girl gasped. Your eyes. Byakuya touched his face and found that a stream of gelatinous substance was coming from his eyes. He wiped it off and turned away. See? Ugly and cursed. I snuck in. Huh. I made sure the guard wasn't looking and then snuck into the Siriidii. She shrugged. That's the truth. I see. See, I've been looking for my sister, long story, and I thought she may have wandered in here. But then I heard the chimes of your blades and was drawn to this spot. Byakuya nodded. She was the first person not to run at the sight of the strange liquid that came from his eyes, nor cringe, and the first one to treat him normal. Just like Ichigo used to. She was also one of the few who wasn't threatened by his position as a clan head as well as didn't care about his abrupt manner. Scatter, Senbon Sakura. His blade burst into the petal blades and Byakuya smiled at the girl as she looked at the cloud of blade in awe. My name is Kuchiki Byakuya, 28th in line for head of the Kuchiki clan. The violet-eyed girl smiled. His Anna, from Inazari, 78th Rukon district. For the first time, it seemed that Senbon Sakura wasn't so hard to control as Byakuya maneuvered it around. Welcome to the Siriidii, his Anna-san. Some months later. Byakuya was called into a room early one day and was met by his grandfather. Aji-san, what brings you to the academy? He asked, confused. Have been well, Byakuya. Very well. I have come because I feel that you are old enough now for us to switch your focus from combat to learning your duties as a clan leader. You have mastered all of the Kido courses as well as found your Zanpakuto name. It's time for you to be who you were born to be, Byakuya. Byakuya nodded slowly as Jinrei smiled. Or is there a reason that you would like to stay? Byakuya gulped, for he had secretly been meeting up with his Anna, giving her food and teaching her some skills with a sword so she might be able to join the academy. He had fun with her and it almost felt like when Ichigo was there with him. Plus, she made him feel relaxed, less uptight and less conscious about his scar and the strange tears he shed. But he had a job to do. No, there isn't anything keeping me. Good then. I will allow for you to say goodbye to your friends and we will leave at first light tomorrow. Aji-san, I don't have any friends that I would like to say goodbye to. We can leave now. It's for the best that I leave like this. Alright then. Jinrei spoke with the director of the academy and Byakuya was eligible to graduate. Jinrei then took him home. Byakuya listened to all that Kintano talked about but had to admit that he was bored out of his mind. He began to daydream, thinking about his Anna and if she was alright, Ichigo and if he had even been born yet on the slow path of time. Byakuya-sama. He looked back at Kintano. Are you paying any attention at all to what I am trying to tell you? Not really. He said as he stood up and stretched. I am tired of this drabble. I will go outside for a few moments. He walked out of the house and breathed in the air of outside. It had been weeks since he had seen the sun or tasted the wind. He wanted to check on his Anna but he was lucky and didn't really have to, for as he looked down he saw his guards bringing her into the house. He brightened and ran downstairs. Sir, this girl was hanging around the outside of the gates. She's been doing it for 3 days now. We thought she was just a random girl but we looked closer and discovered she was from the Rukia district. What would you have us do, my lord? The guard asked. His Anna looked at Jinrei with fear. Please, let me speak with Byakuya. He knows me. You speak his name as if you know him personally. Aji-san. His Anna-san is a friend of mine. Is she? Yes. Please let her go. The guards let her go and she fell to the floor. Are you alright? I'm fine. Byakuya, do you have business with this girl? Business? No. Then we must have her escorted back into the Rukia district at once. Why? You know the rules, Byakuya. She does not have any spiritual power and thus, is not allowed in the Shiriadai. I can have her escorted or thrown in jail. I can do it, Aji-san. I'll take her back. Do what you will. He turned away and Byakuya put his hands on her shoulders. What were you thinking? Why didn't you go back when I didn't return? Because I thought maybe you'd return and I wouldn't have to go back. Byakuya grabbed her hand and began to walk out of the house, heading down a path. Are you taking me back? I must. Aji-san was not very happy. I just wanted to see you again. You never said goodbye or anything. I just wanted to make sure that you were all right. Huh? He turned back as she looked up at him. What do you mean? You were worried about becoming the clan leader and I just wanted to let you know that you will be a great leader. You put yourself in harm's way just to tell me that. Well, you're the one who never came back. I thought you'd just go about looking for your sister. I wish I could but I can't get you off of my mind, Byakuya. She pulled her hand from his and wrapped her arms around him instead. I love you, Byakuya. Byakuya looked at her in confusion as he stood there with his hands in the air and her arms around his torso. He didn't know what to say to this, for it was the first time anyone had ever made a declaration like that to him. You must be delirious from food. I am not delirious. His Anna growled. I have never met anyone like you. You're strong, smart, and beautiful. I have gone to sleep almost every night with the thought of your face in my mind. I have traced over every facet of your being and have come to love it so much. I wish that you could see how beautiful you are, Byakuya. Byakuya blinked and then touched her face as she looked up at him with loving eyes. He didn't know if he felt the same way, but with his Anna, his emotions got strange on him anyway. He never knew if he was saying anything coherent or not, and sometimes he felt as if he were making a total butt of himself. She made him feel free and loved, and he liked that she wanted his protection and guidance. But was it love? His Anna. I do not say this so that you will not take me back, but I say this because it is true, Byakuya. That is all I've ever wanted to say since we met in the clearing. But now that I have said it, I can peacefully go back to the Rokon district with no regrets. She smiled and began to walk away when Byakuya used Shunpa to get in front of her. I love you, he blurted. His Anna blinked. I do. I really love you. Marry me, his Anna. Byakuya, I dash. Please. I know we haven't known each other long enough, but I feel that we are right for each other. We belong together. Please, his Anna of Inazari, become a Kuchiki. Won't your grandfather be unhappy? Yes. But I love you. That should be reason enough. He took her hand and kissed it gently. My his Anna will be with me forever. His Anna smiled as they walked back to the Kuchiki mansion. 5 years later. Byakuya married his Anna a couple years after they met, against the advice of Jinrei and some others in the clan. He loved his Anna, she made him feel like himself, free, and useful. He knew he was odd ever since Urahara and Yoruchi left the Siriidii, and the strange voice in his head grew stronger and stronger, louder and louder. His Anna didn't care about that, nor the strange tears that he shed. Byakuya never wanted it to end. I will rule you, Byakuya. You're not going to resist me. Soon, I will take over you. Fight me, Byakuya. Fight me. Byakuya gasped, waking up and sitting up. He was sweating profusely and breathing heavily, as if he had just finished running a race. Byakuya. What's wrong? His Anna asked beside him. I'm fine, don't worry. Was it the voice again? Yes. It was so loud. He was screaming in my ears, filling my head with aching air. He's still there, he said loudly, holding his head. His Anna sat up and touched Byakuya on the shoulder with her dainty hand. Maybe you should face him in your mind like he asks, show him that you're not afraid of him. He knows how I feel. I can't face him because he knows I fear him already. I'm not like Kurosaki-san. I don't have that kind of power. His Anna turned her head at the mention of Kurosaki, and reached up to turn Byakuya's face to hers. Who's Kurosaki? My mentor. He moved his face from her hand. But he's gone. He had some sort of mask on his face, and when he pulled it on, it felt like a hollow. Listening to my grandfather, he said that the captains that were hollowified by Urahara had the same feel of Kurosaki-san. If that was the case, then, maybe I'm like them. Can you not ask Kurosaki? No. He's far away. His Anna smiled and laid her head on his shoulder, kissing it softly. You've never mentioned him before. You seem to really admire him. He was my mentor, almost like an older brother to me. But he didn't belong here. He was from somewhere else. He had to leave and didn't even say goodbye to me. I vow that I will kick his butt when I see him next time, he growled, clenching his fist. His Anna laughed at her husband's childish temper and turned his face to hers. She looked into his gray eyes and wanted nothing more than to love this man to the end of days. I love you, Byakuya. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you are unlovable or heartless. Hollows don't have hearts, that's why they have holes in their chests. She put her hand over his heart. Yours beats strong and sure. Never let anyone take that away from you. Byakuya smiled at her and laid back down on the bed, pulling her to him for a snuggle. I wish you could have met Kurosaki-san. Though, you may have. What do you mean? Nothing, nothing. His Anna shrugged and put her head in the crook of his neck. Byakuya sighed. She was all he ever needed. A week later. Byakuya held his Anna's hand as she looked up at him. He was holding back his emotions, the tears, and she knew it was because of the strange voice and the strange tears he shed. His eyes were red from holding them back. "I'm sorry, Byakuya-sama. I'm sorry that I cannot remain with you. You'll be fine. You'll pull through this and be on your feet in no time." "No. I feel my time has come. Byakuya, please find my sister when I'm gone. After you find her, please do not tell her that I am her sister. Without telling her anything, please protect her, no matter what. I abandoned her. I don't deserve to be called a sister. So, if it's your will, Byakuya, please be a brother that I could never be." Byakuya nodded, trying to hold back another wave of tears. His Anna knew he needed to cry and reached up to touch his face tenderly. "I'm sorry, my love. Even at the end I am still asking more of you than you deserve to do for me. I am so sorry I couldn't return enough of the love you've given me. I am so sorry. Just know that being with you for the past 5 years has been like a dream come true for me. I would do it all again just to be beside you, my beautiful husband." Byakuya choked back another wave of emotions and his Anna reached a thumb to his eyes, even though he wasn't crying. "Cry. Please. My beautiful Byakuya." His Anna's hand fell from his face and he breathed in deeply, trying to hold his composure, but he lost the fight very quickly. The floodgates broke and he cried harder than he could remember. "Yes, feed your sorrow," Byakuya yelled, screaming in agony. He could hear the people of the house clamoring to get to him and his Anna's room. He could feel the strange gelatin tears he always tried to hide building up on his face as he racked his body in sorrow. "Release your hold." Byakuya keened suddenly, throwing his head back and his arms. The sound was mournful and full of pain, sorrow, and agony. That is until it shifted into something different, haunting. Hollow-like. Finally. Byakuya's tears suddenly wrapped around his face and though he felt his body move, he was not in control. His consciousness fell into his inner world, holding himself as storm clouds gathered in the field of cherry blossoms. His body let out another feral scream as servants and Jinrei reached the room. Jinrei frowned and opened the door to his grandson's room. His eyes widened as he saw Byakuya's hollow mask and the screeching noise it was making. He turned to the servants. "Open the dungeons in the lower levels. We must get him down there. Should we inform the head captain about this?" Jinrei watched as Byakuya's body writhed on the floor, screaming. "No. Get in contact with squad. I want to speak to the captain about this mutation." The servants looked at their master in shock. Jinrei was known for sticking to the rules, no matter what, but now he would be helping a hollow. "Jinrei-sama, are you sure? Do you not think I know the best way to handle this situation? How to handle my own grandson?" "No sir, it's not that at all. It's just that. He's a hollow, my lord." "Yes. He is. But why? That strange scientist that took over for Urahara-san would know how to help him. Besides, I've seen someone like this before and he had complete control of himself. If he could do it, then I know Byakuya can." The servants bowed and sent word out to squad inner world. Byakuya was shaking in pain, agony, and anger. He knew the strange man who had been sneaking around his brain was now truly a hollow and now had taken over his body. His grandfather did not disobey the rules and would have him either executed on the spot or have him exiled. Most likely executed. He'd probably even do it himself to keep the grief at bay as well as keep the head captain from thinking he was cavorting with hollows. Whatever the case, he was dead and waited patiently for the blackness to engulf him. But it never came. He sat up and looked around, seeing the forest of his inner world leafless and a low fog had descended on the naked sakura trees. Everything was hazy and he was unsure if he was in the right place. He stood up and looked around when he felt someone watching him. He looked behind him and saw what looked like self, but the colors were strange. He had stark white hair like Okataki and they didn't have the kensiken in his hair. His hair was longer, blowing in the wind, and was dressed in the samurai armor that he had seen him in before. So, you're here. What is the meaning of this? I think you know what this is. I told you I would take you over when you were weak, and man, that little wifey of yours was definitely your weak point. SCKS, she died. For you. Not for me. Now I get to have your body, and that works for me. Byakuya frowned. My grandfather has not killed me. Nope. Odd, 'cause he seemed like a stuck-up guy that would do it. He seems to think you can overcome it like a strawberry. I have no idea what he's talking about. Even Byakuya was confused when he suddenly remembered Ichigo turning to him and pulling a mask over his face. Ichigo. Strawberry. Kurosaki Ichigo. He had to see Ichigo again. Ichigo had promised that he was one of the strongest opponents he had ever come in contact with. He had to be there. He had to adopt Rukia like his Anna asked. There were too many things he needed to do that be overtaken by a hollow. He got up, taking out Senbon's Akura and pointing it at the hollow. The hollow threw his head back and laughed. Give it up, Byakuya. I have your body. You can't defeat me. Byakuya lowered his eyebrows and clutched his sword hard. If Kurosaki Ichigo can overcome a hollow, then so can I. I am Kuchiki Byakuya, 28th leader of the Kuchiki clan, and I will defeat you. Byakuya opened his eyes slightly and looked around for a second. He felt that his arms were shackled behind him. He must have been in the dungeon. He went to reach up to his forehead where a headache was developing but was hindered by the shackles. He must have been dangerous if the chians were so short he couldn't even touch his face. He looked up as metal moved against stone and saw a guard looking at him. Master Kuchiki, are you all right now? I believe so. Where am I? The dungeon. Your grandfather would like to speak with you if you think you, have control of yourself. I do. The guard nodded and left. Byakuya was very confused as to why he was still here. His grandfather should have killed him by now, or the head captain would have known about it. He looked up as the hinges to the dungeon creaked and Jinrei walked in slowly. He looked at Byakuya with a relieved look but also a cautionary look. Have you gained control? Yes. Aji-san, why am I not dead? Why did you not kill me? Because I saw Kurosaki Ichigo in the same state and his spiritual pressure was the same as yours. If he could do it and was a substitute Soul Reaper, then you as the son of a nobleman and a fully trained Shinigami can do it. I knew you would be able to take control, but we cannot have this again. I believe your hollow is fueled by your negative emotions. Why do you say that? Your tears, my boy. You cannot cry normal tears. Ever since the night Urahara was exiled because of the hollow experiments he was a part of, you have not been able to cry true tears. They seem to trigger that strange mask. Unless you have the training Kurosaki had in fully controlling it, you must suppress it instead. Maybe when you meet him again he can help you, but for now. I have asked Captain Kuratsuchi to help us in this regard. Mayuri walked in and looked at Byakuya. His blue face and strange features made Byakuya give him a look as he bent down in front of him. He grabbed his face and looked at it side to side, seeming very unimpressed and also annoyed. You have acid scars. Your hollow tears have also left marks on your face. Since I cannot experiment on you, he said with an aggravated look at Jinrei. I took some of that idiot samples from that strange kid and made a suppressant. The only problem is that since it's made from the strawberry, it will suppress the hollow, but you will forget him and I put something else in there so you may lose most of your emotions. Byakuya stared at him for a second. Lose my emotions? Well, more like make them easily controllable. You seem like a hothead and anger is hard to control on your own. You have too much of it. This will help you. But I'll forget Kurosaki-sama. What would you rather do? Forget the strawberry kid or be controlled by the hollow again? You don't have the proper training to control the hollow. Jinrei said with a sad expression. He knelt down in front of his grandson. This will allow you to live your life as a Shinigami without risk of the hollow taking over. You have too many things to do to be hindered by this trial. If it helps to know, this is also a trigger serum. Explained Kuratsuchi. Since it's made from that kid, it will suppress him but will react to him as well. Jinrei has told me about his traveling through time, and when you meet him again, the block will disappear. By then you will have a control of your emotions enough on your own to go through with whatever is set for you in the future. When you encounter him again, the suppressant will leave and your own training will begin. You will see how much of a control over your emotions you have then. Byakuya looked at the two captains, the only two who seemed to care enough, even if one of them was a crazy scientist, and nodded slowly. He didn't want to forget Ichigo since he was like family, but he would lose control if he didn't take the serum. He looked at his grandfather and nodded more firmly. Good. Let us begin.